They say the scariest part of a road trip is falling asleep at the wheel. But that's not true. The real terror is when something else decides to keep you awake. Something watching you through the static of your car radio, whispering your secrets and waiting for the moment you finally listen. Story 1. It was supposed to be a simple drive. My two friends, Daniel and Marcus, and I were heading from Anchorage to Portland. We had a beat-up SUV, energy drinks, gas money pooled together, and playlists we'd spent weeks curating. The plan was to drive straight through, switch drivers when needed, and make it in 2 days. I was 23, restless, and the idea of endless highway felt like freedom. The first day went fine. Clear skies, light traffic, the kind of monotony that makes you appreciate cheap gas station coffee. We told stupid jokes, argued about music, even tried playing I Spy just to break the boredom. By nightfall, we'd crossed into British Columbia and decided to keep pushing. That was mistake number 1. Around 1 a.m., somewhere in the wilderness, the GPS glitched. The screen froze, then reset. When it came back, it suggested a faster route. Marcus, who was driving, didn't question it. None of us did. We were tired and eager to shave off time. The road the GPS led us onto wasn't exactly a highway. It was a narrow 2-lane road with no markings and no lights. The trees pressed close on either side, tall and black against the thin wash of our headlights. At first, we assumed it was just some back road shortcut. But then the pavement grew cracked, uneven, almost like it hadn't been used in decades. "Are you sure this is right?" I asked, checking my phone. No bars. Daniel tried his, too, same result. "GPS says it's fine," Marcus replied, but he didn't sound convinced. About 30 minutes in, we passed a sign. At least I think it was a sign. The reflective paint had peeled away, leaving only a warped metal sheet. But there was something about it that made my stomach twist. Like it had been bent from the inside out, as if something had pushed against it trying to escape. We kept driving. The road narrowed further, no intersections, no side roads, no houses. Just black forest swallowing the world outside our beams of light. Then we saw her. She was standing dead center in the lane, maybe 50 feet ahead. Pale dress, long hair, not moving. Marcus slammed the brakes and the car lurched to a stop. For a moment, none of us spoke. "What the hell?" Daniel started, but then cut himself off. Because the woman wasn't moving, not even flinching from the headlights blinding her. Her head tilted slightly, too slowly, like a broken doll. I couldn't see her face, only the glint of her hair. Then, without a word, she stepped backward into the trees. Not walking, sliding, like her feet weren't touching the ground at all. We sat frozen until Marcus muttered, "Nope, not dealing with that," and hit the gas. The SUV roared forward and the spot where she'd stood vanished behind us. We didn't talk for a long while. It was like all of us silently agreed not to acknowledge what we'd seen. I kept glancing back, half expecting her to appear in the rear window. Eventually, Daniel tried to break the tension. Probably just some crazy person, or a hitchhiker, right? No one answered, but then 20 minutes later we saw her again. Same pale dress, same position, dead center in the road. This time Marcus didn't stop. He swerved around her, tires screeching, but as we passed I caught a glimpse of her face. Her eyes weren't eyes, just empty pits darker than the night around them. I gasped, but before I could speak, Daniel whispered, "Didn't we already pass this stretch?" And he was right. The cracked pavement, the bent sign, even the way the trees curved overhead. We'd driven this exact stretch before. It was looping. Panic set in fast. Marcus drove harder, ignoring potholes, speeding through curves. But no matter how far we went, the road kept spitting us back to the same place. Same cracked sign, same forest, same woman. We tried everything. turning around, stopping completely, even shutting the car off for an hour to reset. But when we started again, there she was, waiting, always waiting. At one point, Daniel screamed at her through the window, "What do you want from us?" She didn't answer. She never did. Just stood there, tilting her head, empty eyes fixed on the car. And then she began to get closer. On the 6th loop, yes, we counted, she wasn't standing ahead of us. She was standing beside the road, watching. Her head snapped to follow us as we passed. By the 7th loop, she was closer to the car, almost at the edge of the pavement. By the 8th, I swear I heard her hand brush the door. That was when Daniel lost it. He insisted we pull over, confront her, demand answers. Marcus and I argued, but Daniel was adamant. So finally, against every instinct screaming in my head, Marcus stopped the SUV. The woman didn't move, just stared at us with those hollow sockets. Daniel stepped out. I'll never forget the sound. As soon as his foot hit the ground, the air seemed to split. A whispering, dozens of voices overlapping, like a crowd speaking in a language too old to understand. Daniel froze, then turned back to us, eyes wide. "She's saying something," he whispered. "Can't you hear it?" I leaned out the window, straining, but all I caught was a hiss, a dry rush of words like leaves rustling against each other. Daniel nodded as if responding and took another step toward her. "Get back in the car," I shouted, my voice cracked. "Daniel, get back!" But he didn't. He smiled instead, a wide, unnatural smile that stretched too far. Then he whispered, "I see it now," and he walked into the trees with her. Marcus floored it, screaming Daniel's name, but the forest swallowed them both. I twisted in my seat, searching the darkness, but there was nothing. Just trees and more trees. We didn't stop again. We couldn't. Hours blurred together, the loops repeating, our nerves unraveling. Marcus was muttering under his breath, his knuckles white on the wheel. I kept dozing off and snapping awake, terrified that if I slept too long, the woman would be inside the car. Eventually, though, I realized something even worse. Daniel's seatbelt was buckled. His jacket was still crumpled in the back, but his voice was whispering my name from the floorboard behind me. I didn't look. I couldn't. I just pressed myself against the passenger door, eyes on the windshield. Marcus heard it too because he started sobbing, whispering, "Not real, not real, not real." But the voice grew louder, closer, until finally I felt cold fingers brush the back of my neck. That broke me. I screamed at Marcus to drive faster, though the speedometer was already maxed. The SUV shook violently, but for the first time in hours, maybe days, the trees began to thin. Light. Real light. A gas station glowing on the horizon. We skidded into the lot, tires screeching, engine smoking. The moment we crossed under the fluorescent lamps, the whispers stopped. The air went still. When I looked back, the road was gone. Just empty fields stretching into the night. Marcus and I sat in that gas station parking lot until morning, too scared to move. When we finally went inside, the cashier looked at us strangely. "Rough night?" he asked. We nodded but didn't answer. We didn't know how. We never found Daniel. His phone was dead, his family filed a missing person report, but nothing came of it. They searched the woods where we'd last seen him, but there was no trace. It was like he'd never existed. As for the GPS, when I checked it later, the alternate route was gone. The app had no record of it. It's been almost a year. Marcus doesn't talk about it. We haven't spoken much at all. But I can't stop hearing that whisper at night just under the edge of my dreams. And sometimes when I drive alone, the road ahead looks too dark, too empty. Like the headlights aren't enough to touch it. If you're ever on a road trip and your GPS suggests a faster route through the woods, don't take it. No matter how tired you are, no matter how much time you want to save. Because some roads don't lead anywhere, and some passengers don't want to leave once they've found you. Story 2. I've taken a lot of road trips in my life, but this one is the reason I don't drive at night anymore. It's the reason I check every mirror twice and why I'll never take a highway rest stop for granted again. 2 summers ago, I decided to drive cross-country alone. It was something I'd always wanted to do, just me, the open road, and the kind of silence you can only find when you're 100 miles from anywhere. My car wasn't much. An old Honda with a dent in the passenger door, but it was reliable. I left just before midnight to avoid traffic, figuring I could make it to the next state before sunrise. The highway was empty, the world reduced to black sky above and a ribbon of asphalt stretching endlessly ahead. For the first few hours, it was peaceful. Music low, windows cracked, the smell of pine drifting in. But then I saw the sign. It wasn't anything unusual at first, just one of those green highway markers. Except this one said mile 0. That didn't make sense. I was at least 200 miles into my drive. The numbers shouldn't reset, not out here. I told myself I'd misread it, maybe the paint was faded, but 10 minutes later, there it was again, mile 0. Same exact sign. Same dented corner, same scratches. I slowed down, blinked hard, even slapped my face to stay awake. But when I looked up, another one was waiting. Mile 0. After the 4th time, I started to panic. My GPS still showed me moving forward. The clock on the dash kept ticking. But the world outside wasn't changing. No exits, no towns, no gas stations, just forest and the repeating sign. That's when I saw him. A man standing just past the marker. Tall, thin, wearing a suit that looked too clean for the middle of nowhere. He had no luggage, no car, just his thumb stuck out like he'd been waiting for me. Every instinct screamed not to stop, but as I passed, I glanced in the rear view. He was still there. Except, he was closer. Like he'd taken 10 steps forward in the split second it took me to look back. I pressed harder on the gas. 90, 100. The engine groaned, but the car kept flying forward. The next mile marker loomed. My heart hammered. Please, God, don't let it say 0. But it did. Mile 0. And standing beneath it was the man. Same suit, same posture, but now he was smiling. I didn't look back this time. I couldn't. My hands were slick with sweat, my chest tight. The headlights tunneled into darkness, and the road seemed to stretch longer and longer, like I was driving into some endless throat. And then I heard it. A knock. From the back seat. I nearly swerved off the road. The knock came again, louder. 3 deliberate raps like knuckles on glass. My rearview mirror showed nothing but blackness. No shape, no face, just the faint outline of the back seat. "Get out," I whispered. "You're not real. Get out." But the knocking didn't stop. It grew frantic, shaking the whole car, and over it I heard a voice, calm, low, right behind my ear. "You missed your exit." I don't remember the next few minutes clearly. I know I screamed, I know I slammed the brakes, tires shrieking, and when the car stopped, the world was silent again. I sat there shaking, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles hurt. When I finally dared to look up, the highway had changed. The signs were different. A glowing blue one pointed toward a gas station just a mile ahead. No more mile 0. No man. No knocking. I drove to that station on autopilot, stumbling inside like I'd been dragged through hell. The cashier looked up from his magazine and frowned. "You all right?" he asked. I nodded, but then he added something that still keeps me awake at night. "You're lucky. Most folks who drive that stretch never make it to me. Always end up back at mile 0. I asked him what he meant, but he just shook his head, muttering about roads that loop and travelers who don't belong. I didn't press him. I didn't want to know. I just wanted to get back on a road that obeyed the laws of distance and time. But sometimes, late at night, when I'm driving a quiet stretch of highway, I catch a glimpse of green out of the corner of my eye. A sign waiting at the edge of the darkness, and I swear it says mile 0. Story 3. I've told this story only once before, and the person I told begged me never to repeat it, but I can't keep it in anymore. If someone else is planning a late-night drive through the desert, maybe this will stop them before they make the same mistake. Last spring, my girlfriend and I were driving from Nevada to Texas. It was supposed to be a fun trip. Cheap motels, greasy diners, the kind of adventure you only take when you're young and broke. We'd been on the highway for hours when we saw the gas light come on. No station showed up on the GPS for another 60 miles, but then it pinged with a detour. A small town only 10 minutes off route. "Perfect," she said. "We'll fill up, grab snacks, maybe crash at a motel." So I took the exit. The road wound through flat desert scrub until we saw a cluster of lights ahead. Neon flickering, a gas station sign glowing faintly. Relief washed over me. But as we pulled in, something felt wrong. The station was lit, but no one was inside. No clerk, no cars. Just rows of pumps standing silent. Across the street, the diner's sign buzzed weakly. Open 24 hours. But through the windows, the booths sat empty. Plates of food were half finished, coffee cups full, steam still rising. It was like everyone had gotten up and left mid-bite. We drove deeper in, thinking maybe the motel had people. The streets were lined with cars, nice ones too, but all of them were parked crooked, doors ajar, headlights still on. My girlfriend muttered, "This feels staged." The motel's neon hummed above us. We went inside. The lobby light glowed, the fan spun lazily overhead. But there was no one behind the desk. No voices, no footsteps. Every room key was hanging neatly on the wall except one. Room 6. We should have left, I know that. But we were tired, scared, and low on gas. Against every instinct, we decided to check room 6. The door was ajar. Inside, the bed was unmade, sheets tangled. A suitcase sat open, clothes spilling out, but no person. Then from the bathroom, we heard humming. Low, steady, a tune I didn't recognize. "Hello?" I called, my voice shaking. The humming stopped. We didn't wait. We bolted back to the car, slammed the doors, and peeled down the road. Relief hit when the desert opened up again. I remember laughing, saying we'd never talk about this, that it must have been some weird abandoned set or prank. But then we saw the neon, the gas station, the diner, the crooked cars. We'd looped back into the town. This time the streets weren't empty. As we passed the diner, every head inside turned toward us. Dozens of people, all frozen mid-bite, staring with blank eyes. The motel lobby light flickered, and behind the desk stood a man in a gray suit, smiling too wide. We drove faster, windows up, doors locked. My girlfriend was crying, whispering prayers under her breath. The car sputtered as the gas needle hit empty. I slammed the wheel, begging it not to die. Then, just as the engine coughed its last, we rolled past the "Now Leaving" sign at the edge of town. Everything went black. I woke up in the morning sun on the shoulder of the real highway, miles from where we'd taken the exit. The car had a full tank. My girlfriend was asleep beside me, pale and trembling even in her dreams. We didn't speak of it. Not then, not later. We just drove straight to Texas without stopping again. But sometimes when I pass a rest stop or a small town glowing faintly in the distance, I swear I hear that humming again. And I know if I ever go back, room 6 will be waiting. There's one more detail I never told her. I couldn't. When I woke up that morning, there was something in my pocket. A motel key, heavy and cold, with a tarnished brass tag that read simply, 6. I threw it into the desert as far as I could. But later that night in the Texas motel where we stayed, I heard a faint metallic clink as I unpacked my bag. The key was there again. I don't know how many times I've thrown it away since, dozens, maybe more. Yet it always comes back. Sometimes I find it under my pillow, sometimes it's in my glove box. Once I found it dangling from my own keychain, and every time I touch it, I swear I hear that same humming, like someone waiting behind a door. I've stopped trying to get rid of it. Instead, I keep it locked in a box in my closet, but lately I've noticed it doesn't stay put. The last time I checked, the box was empty. So if you ever find yourself on a desert highway and your GPS pings with a town you've never heard of, do not take the exit, no matter how desperate you are, no matter how low the gas runs. Because the road doesn't just lead you there, it brings something back with you. Story 4, I used to think road trips were all about freedom. Windows down, music blasting, the horizon stretching out forever. But after what happened on the interstate last October, I can't stand the sound of a car radio anymore. I was driving home from college, a 6-hour haul through nothing but flat farmland and dark highways. It was after midnight, and I was alone. The kind of silence that sinks into your skin pressed down on me. The air felt heavy, like the night was holding its breath. The car's Bluetooth had died earlier, so I scanned for radio stations. Static, static, more static, until finally a voice came through. "Good evening, traveler," it said. I froze. It wasn't a DJ's cheery tone or some late-night preacher. It was calm, measured, like someone speaking directly into my ear. The voice kept talking, describing things that didn't make sense. "You're doing 65 in the right lane, hands tight on the wheel, your shirt is blue, your eyes are tired, I nearly veered off the road." He was describing me. Right then. I twisted the dial, desperate to change the station, but no matter where I turned, it was the same voice. "Don't be afraid," it whispered. "You've already passed the last exit. There won't be another until it's finished." That was when I noticed it. The highway felt longer than before, stretching on without signs or exits. My GPS froze. My phone lost service. The road ahead seemed endless, black pavement devoured by shadows. The voice carried on, narrating the smallest details. "The car behind you is getting closer. Don't look, just keep driving." Of course, I looked. Headlights. Too close, tailing me like a predator. I tapped the brakes, changed lanes, but the car mirrored me perfectly. "Don't worry," the radio said. "That one won't pass until I tell it to." My throat was dry, my hands numb on the wheel. "Almost there," the voice soothed. "But you're not alone, you know." Check your mirror, I didn't want to. Every nerve in my body screamed not to. But my eyes flicked upward anyway. In the back seat for a split second, I saw a face, grinning, pale, sitting perfectly still. I screamed and swerved, the tires shrieking, nearly rolling into the ditch. When I steadied, the seat was empty again. The radio chuckled softly. From then on, time stopped making sense. The speedometer said 65, but it felt like I was crawling through molasses. Every mile marker was the same, 142. My dashboard clock flicked between 12:14 and 12:15 like the minute hand was caught in a loop. The voice never shouted. That made it worse. It whispered, calm and patient, like it had all the time in the world. "Your eyelids are heavy. Don't fall asleep, traveler. If you do, I'll drive instead." I gripped the wheel tighter, fingernails digging into my palm. My own breathing sounded too loud, too ragged. The headlights behind me kept their perfect distance, never passing, never falling back. At one point, the voice began describing things I hadn't done yet. "You're going to check the glove box now." Against my will, my right hand twitched toward it. I yanked it back, shaking my head. "You'll open it eventually," the voice said, almost teasing. I clenched my jaw so hard it ached. Another mile, another. The road curved slightly, but no landmarks appeared. No towns, no exits, not even a rest stop sign. Just darkness pressing in from both sides, as if the world outside the beams of my headlights didn't exist anymore. Then it said something that chilled me to the core. "Don't worry about the one in the trunk. He's already asleep." I nearly lost control of the car. I slammed the brakes, heart hammering, jumped out and yanked open the trunk. Empty. Just my suitcase and a box of books. The radio's laughter spilled through the open door, echoing across the silent highway. I slammed it shut, shaking, and forced myself back inside. "False alarm," the voice crooned. "But you looked, didn't you?" You always look. Eventually, a green sign appeared. Exit 47, gas and food. My chest loosened. I took it, speeding off the ramp, desperate for light and people. As soon as my tires hit the off-road pavement, the radio cut to static. The other car vanished. The voice was gone. I pulled into a gas station, shaking so hard I could barely shut off the engine. Inside, the clerk gave me a funny look and said, "You're lucky. Most nights that stretch doesn't get a signal at all." I nodded, too scared to explain. I thought it was over, but it wasn't. When I finally got home, my mom hugged me at the door. She laughed and said, "You must have left in a hurry. Forgot your blue shirt on your bed." I froze, because I'd been wearing that shirt the whole drive. And when I ran to the bathroom mirror, I nearly passed out. My shirt wasn't blue, it was white. Still, I told myself it was exhaustion, stress, my mind playing tricks. For weeks, I avoided driving at night. I avoided highways altogether, but then 2 months later, it happened again. I was heading back to campus after Thanksgiving break. I swore I'd keep the radio off, swore I'd drown out the silence with nothing but my own humming if I had to. But around midnight, with farmland stretching forever on both sides, static filled the speakers. "Good evening, traveler," the voice said. This time it spoke my name. Since then, I haven't driven more than 20 minutes at a time. I tell people I don't like cars, that I get anxious on highways. The truth is I'm waiting. Because one day I know I'll hear it again. And when I do, I don't think it will let me leave the road. So if you ever find yourself driving alone miles from the nearest town, and a voice slips through the static just to say, "Good evening, traveler," do not listen. Don't answer. Don't even breathe. Because if it knows your name, it's already too late. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more chilling tales. Your support means everything, and it keeps the stories coming. Stay safe out there, travelers.